So Infra as code is this concept of describing all the resources that you need to deploy your application. It applies both front-end, back-end, it doesn't really matter. Describe those resources in a configuration file, and then use this configuration file to deploy your infrastructure. And at Healint, we use Terraform. Right, so first when we talk about the speed, here there is absolutely no difference in the speed of the application once it's deployed. It's the speed of deployment, right? So there's a big advantage in when we use Infra as code for speed of deployment. Then the main advantage is that Terraform has this concept of modules. So you can build some templates, some modules that you can reuse. For instance, deploying a front-end website, it's always the same pattern. You've got a bucket, you've got a cloud front, and you have a few security rules in the middle to make sure you respect the best practices. So once you've define this pattern once, but you can reuse it as much as you want. So you can start to build into your module your best practice in terms of scalability and security. That's the main advantage. So the main alternative is, well, first I don't really consider it as an alternative, but it would be basically do it manually. You open the AWS console, you have a deployment manual, and you follow the step, and you do everything step by step. But let's consider this not really an alternative. When we talk about infrastructure as code, the main alternative when it comes to AWS deployment is actually AWS CloudFormation, which is a bit more clunky, I would say, but yeah, it has its followers. And then there are a few other alternatives, but are not really major at the moment. So the main limitation of Terraform at the moment, I would say, is like this template file is a bit rigid and it's sometimes hard to do like very flexible templates. So I believe the main progress will come around the flexibility of this templating mechanism. One of the promising technology around this would be CDK for Terraform. CDK is actually a tool by AWS, but using the Terraform deployment provider, so it's pretty promising. It's much more easy, right? Because you've defined your deployment, the way you will deploy once. So if you want to deploy it twice, it's just a matter of creating a new Terraform environment, which is done with one command line, Terraform workspace new test, and you apply it, and boom, it's deploying you the same environment a second time with just a different name. So you can really replicate easily your deployment. I would say it's a historical reason. Historically, in the software companies, you had two teams, the IT team and the software team. Software team would create some lines of code and then would hand it over to the IT team, and IT team takes care of deploying it, opening the firewall, I mean, all that kind of stuff. And then we had this DevOps movement, which started to merge the two teams, and you started having software solutions to IT challenges. And that's how we ended up with those kind of tools of infrastructure as code. That's the main reason. I would say it's a historical reason. And then the second reason is like when you start on AWS, it might be overwhelming. There might be many resources, etc. And just manipulating those resources through configuration file might be overwhelming compared to just opening the AWS console.